Hi everyone, welcome back to another recipe video. In this one, I have a very special brownie-like recipe for you. This is more of a candy bar than a brownie, I would say, because it's so dense and so fudgy, and the chocolate flavor just explodes. And that's because I'm using cocoa powder as well as chocolate in a block. This is dark chocolate. And one interesting fact also is that I ran out of butter, so I decided to substitute butter with coconut oil, and it works beautifully. So let's get started. I'm gonna try to combine all of my dry ingredients as a first step, and then I'm gonna set them aside. Because we're using cocoa powder, it is important that you sift this. We're using a lot of chocolate. I have dark chocolate. This is about 60 to 70% cacao. And I love that because it just enhances that chocolate intensity in the flavor. So if you're using chocolate in block form like I'm showing here, then make sure you chop it nice and evenly, because we need to melt this together with the coconut oil. And it's easier for it to melt evenly if every chunk is roughly the same size. So it's a brownie recipe and I don't want to fuss around with a water bath. So I decided to melt this in the microwave. I usually do like 20-second pulses. But if you do want to use the water bath, if you don't have a microwave, that's absolutely fine. Just make sure you stop heating the chocolate once it's fully combined. So now I'm gonna start with the rest of the ingredients. I have 2 eggs here, and I'm gonna beat them together with the sugar until it's all nice and fluffy. You will notice that it's nice and well combined when the whole mixture goes paler in color. And a quick test would be to run your fingers through this mix, and you shouldn't really feel any sugar granules. If you reach that point, then go ahead and add that vanilla. And mix it very well. You cannot overmix at this point. So that's nice and ready for my chocolate mixture. The chocolate mixture should be roughly cooled at this point, so make sure that you do wait until that happens. You don't want to add too hot of a liquid to the egg mixture. And for this recipe, I do suggest that you use hand mixers or a stand-up mixer because there's a lot of beating involved. You want to build that air into the eggs, because this is what's gonna give the brownies that really nice crust at the top. So once you're done mixing in the chocolate with the eggs, then you can switch to a spatula. You don't need the mixer anymore. And at this point, we're ready to add the dry ingredients. But before we can do that, I have to sift everything because of the cacao powder. It tends to clump up, especially in humid environments. So it's important to get rid of those lumps. And if you sift it and you find that you have huge lumps still, then don't worry, just go in with your hands and just push those through the sieve. You can see already that the mixture is pretty thick. So when you add the dry ingredients, this will only get thicker. And this is going to give you that candy-like texture in the end product. So I'm using my spatula to fold in the dry ingredients. Just take your time. It doesn't have to be perfect with every addition. I don't just dump all the dry ingredients into the bowl, especially because my bowl is not that big at this point. I like to see how the texture of the batter changes with each addition, and I wanted to show you that here in the video as well. It's already pretty thick, and once I'm done adding all the dry ingredients, this is roughly the texture that you will end up having, and it will only get thicker as the batter rests. So Now it's time to put this aside and prepare your oven and prepare your pan. So my oven is preheating, and in the meantime I have a square pan here that I like to line up with parchment. And instead of just using a large piece of parchment to cover the whole tray, I like to cut 2 rectangles, which will only cover 2 opposite sides at a time. So in order to make them stick and not have them move when you pour the batter in, I'm using a little bit of fat. I had a tiny piece of butter lying around, and that will hopefully make it stick enough so that it doesn't move when you pour in the batter. And this will give you really clean edges, especially in the corner areas. And not only that, I leave a little bit of the parchment hanging off of the tray, and this is because it's gonna help me later on once I pull the brownie out of the tray as little handles. So you can see that the batter is pretty thick. You really want to get in there and scoop everything out of the bowl. Make sure you use that spatula to help yourself. Now this is gonna be a perfectly great brownie as it is right now, but let's take it one step further and add some chocolate chunks. This is completely optional, of course, but if you want to do that, you could add any sort of thing. Milk chocolate instead of dark, for example, if that's what you prefer, or white chocolate even. Let's just say that you have options. So this is ready for the oven in 180 Celsius, 350 Fahrenheit for around 20 minutes. And it will come out. I don't think you can tell that it expanded a lot, except for those nice cracks on the top. But this is done. This is what it looks like in the end. And you can tell that the chunks don't sink into the brownie batter, and that's because it's so thick. So mine has rested a good 10 minutes, and I'm just making sure that no batter leaked out of the parchment, because I'm about to take it out of the tray and I don't want any accidents. So using my parchment handles, I just pop it out of the tray, and look at that. Now for cutting, I suggest that you let it completely cool. I would say 1 hour is perfectly fine if you can wait that long, but the only reason you would ever wait to cut a brownie is to get cleaner cuts for those square pieces that are the individual portions. So I'm just peeling off gently that parchment. You can see that I'm kind of handling the whole thing a bit roughly, and that tells you a lot about the brownie texture. This brownie is really not your cake-like brownie that will fall apart. It's more a candy bar, like I keep saying in the video, and I'm about to show you why that is. So I had an 8x8 inch pan, so that means it's probably a good idea to get 9 pieces or 9 squares out of the whole thing. Maybe you're a bit more generous and just get 6 pieces out. It's completely up to you in whichever way you cut it. So you can notice already that nothing is really sticking to my knife, thanks to that fudgy candy-like texture of these brownies. They are so dense, and let me show you what they look like. You already got a sneak peek in the intro, but I have to show you again. They have this very compact texture, and it's like eating a candy bar, really. It's nothing like a regular brownie. So I really hope that you like this recipe. Don't forget to hit the like button, to subscribe, to share, and I will see you next time with another kick-ass recipe.